Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Magic: Cascading Arena. Today is Friday, July 17th. We need to re-roll something here. Let's re-roll this. And let's just come over here and see what the daily deal is. We're kind of constantly getting these offers for packs in daily deals. And I guess you want to do that still. There's really not a great reason not to do it, at least at the moment. There is also this new featured pack that is only real world money, which buying this to get the mastery level would be $14.99, where I could spend just $5. Probably. What is the equivalent here? 3,400 gems is $19.99, whereas 1,600 is $9.99. So you get kind of double plus 200 more. And if you double that again, well, it doesn't. It goes from $20 to $50 to $100. So they're doing everything in their possible way to confuse you. But they also give you a avatar or character, which I imagine that avatar will either disappear or it will eventually be available for purchase. I've made it a couple of tiers up on ranked, and that's what we're going to focus on. I actually spent yesterday, some of yesterday's time at least, playing Magic. And see, this is where it's going to get weird, is if there are 3 or 4 card characters here that are just locked in the way that you can't get them anymore. Store. Apparently this one was one that was only available for a time, so that is apparently just going. So is this one. So yeah, if you don't get these avatars, you maybe never get these avatars, but I would guess that's probably not true. I would guess what happens is these go on sale at some point. I mean, it's so ridiculous, and how far down the well can they really go with this? There's already too many characters. We have some mythic rares, so what we want to do before we do anything is go ahead and see what we haven't crafted for mythic rares. That, I guess, is none. We'll be opening an Ikra pack, so I guess we should craft one of these. So I guess we now have all the mythic rares. What else do we have? Uncommons. We'll deal with that in a second. See what we got on Theros Beyond Death as far as cards. Yeah, we'll just start with the... We'll just go down the row and not really think about it. You'd think you would bother to actually care about what cards you were going to craft, but nope. And let's see. Let's just see now. Standards. And there was a bit of a surprise yesterday when I opened Magic in the fact that they announced some banned cards that I don't feel like they really talked about at all. So seems they just kind of sprung it on people. But I guess they were banned historic cards, so They're just expanding on the path of trying to make historic something that could actually be something. And that's where I got a couple of those wild cards from. I imagine. So, alright, now let's open the pack. And yeah. We didn't get any gems. Let's see if we got any new cards. We got a second copy of that, a single copy of that, one copy of that, fourth copy of that, first copy of that, first copy of that, first copy of that. Or at least between crafting and all of that, we had a decent collection of cards. So we crafted 3. Then we opened a pack that would have had 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, that is exactly right. Let's see. Let's check out what Jumpstart is. Okay. Let's see. Welcome to Jumpstart, where dinosaurs roam above the clouds and spellcasting dogs run free. When you join this event, you'll get a chance to select 2 different half decks from a variety of themes, combine them, and then you'll have that deck that's ready to go. You'll keep all the cards from your deck, including the new special basic lands card themes. And this would give you a Jumpstart card, and at least rare. And this will give you a Jumpstart card and at least rare. And then you have to click to learn more. Does that just launch a website? Yes, it does. It, in fact, launched a YouTube video. I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that. Let's see. Let's do this. And cycle through all of this. Yeah, this gives you 3,500 gems. So, if you care about the card sleeve and the avatar, it's a good deal at $14.99. If you don't care about either one of those and you just want gems, probably isn't a good deal. And I don't know how many cards this would give you for 2,000. I don't know if it's new cards. Like, one would assume that it is not new cards. Like, nope. Wait a minute, let's go down here. Jumpstart apparently is a historic collection of cards. And so we would be expanding our decks with cards that we'd almost never play. Yep. Let's just be honest here. There is this ever increasing list of cards that are historic that I probably am not ever going to pay at all. We do know that Historic Anthology is not really leaving for like another 3 weeks or so. So, but it does kind of seem like this is where it's gonna go. And we're gonna have to try it. We're gonna have to try it at least once. Because there's not gonna be any other way to get Jumpstart cards. And let's see, of all the other play modes, what else have we got? Traditional draft, quick draft, premium draft. And that's about it. Alright, well. Borderless Planeswalkers apparently are now available, which is some kind of new bundles thing. Where is that? I didn't see that. Oh, here. So if you want borderless lands, which And they just need to decide on one good land. And for basic lands, actually, this is perfect, since basic lands are never going to have any text on them. So they should just set that as the new default and stop changing them. Stop adding more things. We need 200 more gems to get the Mastery Pass. And then the Planeswalkers being borderless. This is kind of the problem where borderless and extended art and the different styles are getting really crazy. It's like, that's a lot of gold for that. A lot of gold for that. Not really worth it. This may not be worth it either. Okay. So now we get to choose our packs. Okay. So we could go smashing with red, predatory with green, or minions with black. I like the more female form than I would say a monster or a grave robber. So we'll just pick smashing. Now the real question then would be, are we going to now be offered 3 completely different packs? And how many packs are there? Is there one for each color? Or is there several for each color? Well, we now know we have smashing and dinosaurs. Or we could go smashing and smashing and smashing and unicorns. Let's go with dinosaurs, I guess. And this idea here, as far as smashing dinosaurs, as we look at the cards, is kind of crazy. I also kind of think this is crazy. This little glitch that happens sometimes. So, enchanted creature gets +2 in attacks in each combat. Look at your top 5 card. You may reveal a dinosaur or a land from among them. Put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of the library. Target creature gains ++X until the end of the turn that fights one target. Alright. You know, it really just does come down to, I just don't care enough to read these cards. The problem here is they present all these cards to you, all 40 of them at the same time, when ideally I need something a bit slowed down and a bit more broken up, where they would say just show me all the 1 mana cards first, and then I'd have to page forward to see the next page. Like, as inefficient as it might be at first thought, if there really was just the 6 to 12 cards that you see when you're looking in the collection, something where it was a lot more zoomed in and you could focus more, that would be better. It would be a lot better to just page forward through it. This layout is only efficient if you're looking at the screen right in front of you on a computer and you know exactly what every card does by the name of it. This is a terrible layout actually trying to learn the cards. And I'm just constantly putting in so much time playing off screen, playing on off days to even have a chance at maybe having some levels of success with Magic. It's really winding me down as far as energy, where I would much prefer to have been doing something more like Hearthstone, where there's fewer daily quests or just no actual daily win requirements, and there was a lot less time I could spend on Hearthstone, and even Hearthstone took up too much time. So I'm really hoping that the Marvel game is much more time friendly. That being said, it just kind of, the fact that I am planning on moving to the Marvel card game does put me in this weird position where I'm putting a lot of effort into this this game, and it's really going to be all for naught. Well, this guy is not apparently playing, so I guess we'll just sit here and see if we get a straight victory. Okay, do we want a free mulligan? Or do we want to keep what we've got? I think we'll just keep what we've got. I did manage to record a couple of episodes, and by a couple I mean exactly 2 episodes of Valley before this. That too could be part of what's making me feel fairly tired here. I did wake up around 1, so now it's 10. So yeah, there's reason to be tired. Valley finally is having a significant amount of enemies, and they've added a decent amount of Metroidvania-esque elements of movement to it also. So it puts me puts you in this weird position where you're wasting like 6 hours or so of gameplay where you really just wandered around, kind of ran, kind of jumped in a few places, but there really wasn't a lot to find or do. Well, that was a nice legendary creature. I hope that gave me 4 copies of that card, but I don't know if that really did. We might have to do something fairly crazy here, and we may have to cheat our way and play like 3 or 4 of these games to get all the cards. We're gonna have to evaluate if we're getting 4 copies of each card, or if we're just getting like 1 copy of each card. This whole jumpstart idea, I think, is supposed to be for new players, kind of a mix and match pre-made decks concept that I believe Pokemon card games had something similar to this, and there's definitely an idea. What does this do? This enters tapped. Interesting. And so then we choose a different color than red. So now when this taps, it'll add red or green. Interesting card. As a thriving bluff. But yeah, I don't have yet, since I only played for half a second there, I've yet to see why this would be specifically great cards. If anything, I feel like having people just play a few games with only creature spells with no effects might be the smart move. Get rid of the effects, get rid of enchantments and artifacts, have only sorcery spells and instant spells to start with, and probably would be fairly well suited to get rid of a lot of craziness. Although it's really not being realistic to try to get kids to learn how to play Magic with creatures that don't have effects on them, since almost every creature you play will have an effect on him. Yeah, it is very weird though with Valley that it just took so long to finally warm up. There's also a very long running section or two that I ran into. And you run into these running sections and they're just kind of there, I think, to prove that the creators of the game actually thought through the whole world design, and so they wanted to make it so that it felt like you were actually running around a large valley. But at the core of it, there's kind of nothing going on when you're running, and that they've only managed to slightly make the game interesting by having 4 or 5 of the Wendigo enemies that they introduced appear in the same place. There was a whole section where you're supposed to swing around, and the swing mechanics are just not something I ever really embraced, so instead I kind of just muddled my way through it and probably missed some collectibles. It feels like I thought I was very close to the end of the game and that I had gotten nearly all the collectibles, and then it wrapped around one of the life bar things to a second row, which kind of implies either I've done an absolute terrible job on collecting all the life bar upgrades, or I'm only halfway through the game, and that would be crazy. Okay. Let's go ahead and attack, since that has trample. And yeah, I think we're gonna win. Oh, I could have attacked with this also. On second thought. Well, we'll do that next turn. There's a whole story, like background audio log story that's happening in Valley that kind of just ended with the people you were hearing about failing and not really them doing really mattering at all. There's a lot of ideas that were not properly introduced at the beginning of the game. It does definitely also feel like that if the world was more of a interconnected open world like Metroid Prime, and there was just a general plains-like valley area that had many shortcut paths that you crossed through, that would be a lot more interesting than what that we've actually got. My only other thought would be that possibly what? Oh, so you want to target this one and then sacrifice that one. I thought it was the other way around. See, that was fairly easy. That was, if anything, too easy. And we can't play any further. And it says resign if you, at any time if you wish to rejoin and pick new cards, you will have to pay the entry again, but you can also earn all the rewards again. So, alright. Let's now go to the deck. and see how that really played out. We got this card and this card. And we've got one of each of those cards. That seems fairly expensive to me, really. Like, that seems like you would have to pay really 6,000 just to get 4 copies of everything. And it does seem like there's probably 2 jumpstart decks for every color, so you're talking minimum 20 entries that you then would have to, or 20 jumpstart decks, of which you get 2, which would get back to 10, which then you'd have to buy 4. So you're talking, if I'm doing my math right, and I don't know if I really am, 40 entries at 2,000 gold? That doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem worth it. So we do know Jumpstart is replacing Friday Night Magic, though, so I guess we could be fine with that. Let's just go ahead and resign so we know what happens. Nothing special. And it would just be another 2,000 gold. Okay. Maybe we'll do one of those every Friday, but maybe not. We still want to build up our gold. And we're not going to build up our gold doing that. And meanwhile, on Monday, we need to do like a quick draft, which would be 5,000. So we barely have enough gold for that. I'm really just dropping the ball all over the place, am I not? Alright. Let's come over here. And let's try some blue cards out. And since I've already admitted that I'm feeling a little exhausted, I don't even know if I'd really classify it as sleepiness in this case. It's just the heat, the summer, and everything, and just insomnia. I feel exhausted. As far as accountability, I have also been saying that I uploaded all the Magic videos, but I didn't bother to get around to scheduling any of it. Instead, I've been still obsessing with trying to get into encryption to work from my server. It's just a ton of little spiked tacks on the ground, I guess is the analogy to use. It's just a little tweak here, a little tweak there, a little this, a little that to get it to work. The core part of the problem is that the encoding program itself has to be run in user space, and I think I already mentioned this. So when my helper script that encodes the emails, runs the encoding software, if it's being run by the root super user, it doesn't work. I finally figured out how to get that to work, so it will work. But there is something about what I've done in the past, many years ago, to automate the tasks and the reports to be emailed to me in the first place using postfix, that I don't remember what I did, and fairly obviously I've been terrible about documenting things, but I don't remember what I did, and I was following just assistive help and scripts, so it's not like I thought up everything and even know what programs they are using. Postfix uses a program called SendMail, and I thought I had disabled SendMail because they didn't need it, and seems like some of the programs still need it. And there is also always the possibility of email just not showing up and me not realizing the email's just not showing up. I also am jumping between doing double duty on messing with computers because I was still tweaking my router scripts, the watchdog script to make sure to tell it to reboot if it can't connect to google.com. I updated that so it tries 5 times before it reboots instead of just trying on the first try. There was too high of an instance of it running into errors and not being able to connect on one try just because while I was uploading. So I wanted to be more cautious. But yeah, instead of uploading videos, which I just hate the scheduling of the videos. I absolutely hate it. It's 100 times worse than any other part. Give me playing the worst of the worst. Like, I would much prefer to play the worst of the worst possible video game over scheduling videos, because it's just sucky. But I need to get over this hump. I need to schedule the last few of them, and then I need to see if my script is really going to work. That even pushes me towards potentially not being able to mess around with the automation script I made for uploading videos, so I can even do the nerd geek stuff, which is obviously becoming more and more of a focus, as often happens with me. Is that sometimes I just swing from one direction to the other and become a little less interested in games and a little more interested in computer stuff. Not that that's any announcement of any intention to change what I do, or change the amount I schedule, or what I schedule and what I video and stream. I imagine even if I thought I could work some kind of like IT job again, I don't know if there are too many of those that are going to happen right about now that are going to be particularly great jobs. There will be definitely an initial demand for more help as people try to set up Zoom calls and remote conferencing stuff. Yes, that definitely has happened and will continue to happen for a brief while. But it seems like what's going to happen is just a lot of people are going to lose their jobs, and a lot of people are going to go out of business or be unemployed. So I fully wouldn't be surprised if very quickly we start to see fewer and fewer IT jobs and less pay to pay for IT jobs. That being said, I don't know what the good job is right now. We're dangerously approaching the point where the best job for anybody to have right now is like Robin Hood or looter, survivalist, things like that. Because yeah, nothing's going well. The news story is that that 1/3 of Americans missed a house payment, and that's a weird situation too. Because if you're gonna miss that first house payment, they're gonna levy some fine on you, and then you're gonna be in a position where they might be able to start the foreclosure procedures. That being said, most courts probably are not going to want to deal with any foreclosure procedures that happen early. It'll be very delayed. There is, I guess, perhaps an argument that, do you think you could actually squat in your house for 7 years, paying the taxes on it while not paying the mortgage, maintaining the property, maintaining the claim, doing everything that is legally required, a lot of which is very hard to actually do. And like squatter rights, those cases only really work when there's like a farmer that has a fence that's like 5 meters over the line into their neighbor's point. Like that's about the only time it works, and even farmers are hypersensitive to that, so they would be fairly careful to not make that happen. So yeah, if you can't pay for your house, then you can't pay for your house. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea if you're going to miss that first payment to just stop all payments. But you are going to get evicted at some point. You are going to get foreclosed on. But if you've got absolutely no income in it, you're in pretty much the same bad position if you try to negotiate and say, well, I can pay half. I've heard far too many stories where people were individually financially troubled, and they talked to their landlord or their apartment manager, and they said, well, I can pay half, and they said, okay, pay half, and then they evicted them anyways and just took the money and run. So yeah, if you can't pay everything 100% on time as far as living in the house and apartment, you should just stop paying everything, and you should just start packing up everything and have it in your car and have it ready to go, because that's what's gonna happen. The good news is it's probably never been a better time to be a delinquent payer on a house or an apartment rent. But yeah, you should definitely be ready. And really, there's probably just gonna have to be a lot of pain until something changes. Like either we institute some major universal basic income, housing credits, major reform as far as sustainable living. Another story said there's not a single state where minimum wage employees working at 40 hours can sustainably afford or reasonably afford their living, the price of an apartment or a one-bedroom apartment. Now, the way that's calculated is, if you're paying more than 1/3 of your income towards your housing, that's too much, and that's not reasonable or sustainable in their book. And that's always been the general idea that they put out there, and the price of living has just gotten more and more expensive, so it doesn't really work. And it's 2 or 3 jobs that you would need at minimum to work at minimum wage to be able to afford or reasonably afford the price of a one-bedroom apartment. Of course, people are still pushing the silly narrative, well, minimum wage was always for high school kids. I was like, yeah, go down to McDonald's and look who's working there. Is it high school kids, or is it people in their 30s or older? Go look at a Walmart and see who's working there, because it hasn't been a case for a very long time that all or even the majority of employees at a Walmart or a McDonald's were high school kids, and even Walmart and McDonald's don't actually pay minimum wage. Yeah, that argument only kind of holds weight if you were trying to make the argument that's like GameStop teenagers who are working, teenagers working at like GameStop deserve to be paid minimum wage, and that's about the only company I could think of that just heavily employs young people, and GameStop is failing anyways. And the whole thing just falls apart because there's no reason to say that young people deserve less pay for doing a job. Just in general, that's just ageism. It really is. If you change that and said women deserve to be paid less, that would be sexism. To say young people deserve less pay is ageism. You really can't make the argument it's because high school kids have less experience at a job. That's super subjective and not ever guaranteed to be true. Furthermore, there's plenty of adults that have to bounce around so many jobs that their experience and working at one job may be way less than what a high school kid may have. Adults might have more experience in general, working in jobs in general, but that doesn't really apply to anything much. And it's really just a ton of hogwash, because there's basically two ways to approach a job, and a high school kid can figures that out in about, I would say, less than 3 weeks. You either are approaching the job fairly hyper serious, in which you're always going to be there 10 minutes early, you're going to work your butt off, you're going to try to get everything done and impress everybody and work your way up the ladder, which almost always fails in the story in these days. The workaholic approach. There is perhaps, if you have a lot of education, if you know a lot of people, if you're particularly good at being sociable, you might be able to work up the ladder. Or most high schoolers figure out the other way, which is you work the job, you get paid, you don't care about it. You call in sick because you drank too much the night before. That's the lazy bad employee approach, and honestly most people should be bad employees, because most jobs are bad jobs and they get what they deserve. I've definitely worked jobs where I've personally been the workaholic, and I've regretted it in a long way, and it certainly didn't help me in any way because nobody appreciated it. That's the real thing, isn't it? I suppose if you were in a job where you had someone who actually appreciated it, not just said they appreciated it or gave you some stupid Employee of the Month badge or award, but if they're actually paying you what you're actually worth, if they actually will back you up and support you, if they're not just trying to use you and abuse you as much as possible, then by all means stay in that job and keep that boss, because that is a rare thing, and you will not see that very often in job situations. Yeah, but I've gotten off on an economics rant again, and I kind of want to wrap up early today. Just think that's there. Gametsu is doing a weird thing where they're giving away a lot of Steam codes, which is weird. And the Summer Game Fest 2020 is starting in 10 minutes. So I don't know if we'll have anything to say about that at the end of the stream. But yeah. Yeah. Currently, if you're unemployed, I think you just hoard. I think that's the best move. If we were often survivalists, people will use the zombie apocalypse allegory. Very few survivalists, I think, actually believe there will be a zombie apocalypse. But if this was the zombie apocalypse, if it just broken out, if you're just figuring out that there are zombies everywhere, what would be the first thing you would want to do? You would want to hoard the resources that will come into being handy, not just tomorrow, but 2 weeks from now, a month from now, a year from now. So if that's medicine, food, bullets, those are all very useful. Now, in our current economic situation, we're not quite to the point where money and printed money is worthless, where in a zombie apocalypse it almost certainly would be. So my equivalent there is like, yeah, stop paying your bills. If you can't make that first bill, kind of stop paying them all. It probably would be smart to cut off, say, the cell phone and the internet or the Netflix. Like, first you'd start with like the Disney Plus, the Netflix, things like that. All the supplemental things that aren't going to really affect you. Cell phones, you kind of need a cell phone to try and get jobs. So you'd like maybe bump it down to one cell phone per family, like one shared number, which would really suck for most people. Cable TV, get rid of that. Internet sucks, certainly, to get rid of it, but there are ways to sit in the parking lot of a McDonald's and get free Wi-Fi on the cell phone and apply for jobs. But yeah, that's something you could get rid of. I would get rid of all those little things. Gym memberships, definitely. All those little bills first, and keep the house payments up to date as quickly as much as possible. But if it really doesn't look like you're not gonna be able to get any income at all, yeah, I would just start squatting in the house. I would stop payment on all that. I would stop payment on everything and just let them cut off services and try to have as much cash as possible for food. And that's about all you could do, really. It might be like, but yeah, there is definitely a problem with if you did lose your job right about now anyways, because normally when you lose a job it would take 6 months to 2 years to get a job, and let's be honest, about half of the people who do lose their job and go on unemployment for more than a couple of weeks, normally about half of those drop off the unemployment list and just never get a job. The real number of unemployment in the United States has always been hidden and way larger, because you have tons of spouses and wives that just want to just decide to be stay-at-home parents, which we probably will see a major increase in things like that. But you also just have a ton of people that either starve to death or go homeless or just disappear. So if it takes 6 months to 2 years for a lot of people to get jobs, not everybody, but a lot of them. Normally, why do people think that magically, as soon as the pandemic is done, that all these jobs will just reappear, and that everybody will get hired back at the same pay or better? If anything, this is just the beginning of some real nastiness. Start growing farm. If you have any land at all, start growing food. That's probably your best bet. Maybe think about getting some bows and arrows and hunting in some forests. Maybe think about getting some bows and arrows to protect your own place. I would say bows and arrows are probably smarter than bullets and guns, because you'll run out of bullets fairly quickly in a zombie apocalypse type scenario. But there's not a lot of real answers. There kind of is one good answer. In the next 50 years, by the time most people are going to be elderly at this point, the population is supposedly going to be rather declined, which probably won't be a bad thing. Like, there's over 7 to 8 billion people on the planet. If half of them just naturally pass away, that's half as much, that's twice as much resources for everybody left. And I don't think we're really approaching a point where all of the human race would just die out because it's only like 3 billion. If we were way spread apart, also, that would be way better for like disease control. And with the Chinese one-child policy and them all wanting sons, them having, I believe it's 16 males for every 1 female in China. I wouldn't be surprised if they're way more affected with, as far as people just dying out from old age and not having kids to replace them. Alright. Alright, return that. Play that. And then attack. Alright, let's start talking about some video games. I did want to mention that the Tales of Castoria game on cell phones that just came out, I believe is the name of the game. We talked about it on Wednesday. I said I was going to try it out. It was a huge download. I believe it was 1.8 gigs of download. And it was just one of the very standard RPG games with relatively low polygonal 3D models and the standard shonen anime, like young teenage boy anime plot. It just nothing interesting there at all. I skipped through all the dialogue basically just to get out of the tutorial section, just to get to the main menu to see, is this going to be one of those games that has tons of buttons and things to do? And that's true. That's exactly what it was. There was also another game that was advertised to me from Line Games as the publisher. I tried that out. It also was exactly like that. There was also a Neon Genesis Evangelion game I had installed several months ago, like a month ago, and I never got around to actually playing it. And so I finally actually went through that, and that was a very boring, like, kind of infinite runner side-scrolling game, from what I could tell, which was just basically very poorly trying to retell the story of Neon Genesis Evangelion, which there's absolutely no reason why I would want to watch and read that story instead of just watching the DVDs I own of it, or perhaps watching the newer version of it that would be maybe a slightly different experience to watch the new audio of Neon Genesis Evangelion. I just need to remember I'm playing cards here, and that's all I'm really trying to do. I can attack. Can I win? Yeah. Alright, well, let's get as many victories as we can. So yeah, I installed that and then uninstalled that. I did fairly a lot of cleanup on my cell phone. Like, I usually don't uninstall almost anything on my cell phone, so there was plenty of little things that I went through, and like little nerd test apps. Like, I had one that showed me how to make like a Cat5e wiring guide to make network cords. I don't really need that. Anywhere I go, I'll have internet access, so that there's no reason to actually. Now I'm going to play rank to try to actually win and get higher up in the rank. Like, anywhere I go, I could be able to look that up. Plus, there's another software I have that has a portion of Wikipedia just automatically downloaded and kind of like synchronized on my phone, so even if I was somewhere where there was no internet, I could probably still look that information up. So it's just highly unlikely. That on top of the fact that if I was to actually pull out my network cable crimp, there right next to it is a printed diagram of the color codes to use. So there's things like that. This is weird. This says protection from green, and that's described as this permanent can't be blocked, targeted, dealt damage to, enchantment, or equipped by anything green, which you would think dealt damage meant combat damage, but it doesn't. And I lost the game, I believe, because I was experimenting with that to see if it actually was immune or indestructible from green, and no, it is not. So yeah, several games. I'm still cheating my way through the Nutaku game College Life and making decent progress there. So I think I've basically recovered everything that I missed or lost by starting over, and it seems like there might be a chance that I will not rage quit on it and will actually continue playing it and seeing where it goes. But we'll see. And Destiny Child is still going fine with its current events. Nothing amazingly great happening. I would say, particularly for Destiny Child, you run into this this issue where there was a really good Ragnar break season, which it doesn't matter what that means. It's just there's three types of events that happen. There are world bosses. Right now we're fighting a world boss. There are Ragnar breaks, and then there's like a narrative dungeon season, and they just cycle between those three things, and every month or so there's something around one of those. So there was a really good story introduced in the previous event, so this current event is kind of nothing, which is fine. Like, the game is still going, and it's still very playable and very doable. It is possible that after a year of playing it, which I believe I've played it for a year, that I'm losing a bit of enthusiasm for it, but that's about it. And it's still the only game that is actually automated in how you play it for the most part, so like everything else I have to actually spend an extra hour a day playing, and that's what's in part keeping me distracted, is that I have all these little side distractions on my cell phone that I'm playing instead of just playing games on Steam. So I should get rid of them, and I did get rid of several of them, and we still are very much at the point where the large majority of all games on cell phones suck. Terrible. They're just totally not worth playing at all. It's no surprise so many kids are watching YouTube or Twitch or things like that instead of playing games on cell phones. Right. I'm gonna attack here and see if hope he blocks with something. There we go. We needed that dead. So then we could do this. And we'll do this. And since we don't know where we're going to end up with this, we'll go ahead and do this a second time. This is interesting that it's stacking the different styles of food tokens. It hasn't done that in the past. Maybe they put out a tweak to fix that. Let's start with covering the news, though. Here we have a Gematsu article. The Neptunia Virtual Stars DLC character Kazuna Ai and Tawa Kiseki have been announced, which I guess they're guest VTubers. Is this Tawa here? Because I've seen this character. I have never seen this character. Well, this is their name in Japanese. If I could read any Japanese, I probably could recognize this. I would assume that 2 brush strokes here probably is key. So this might be Tawa. But then this would be I, so who knows. So one of them is one of those names, and one of them is the other of those names. For what little that probably will matter for most people. Well, it's Friday again, so I guess they've let the gates open as far as adult content. Here I have a game on Steam that is labeled sexual content, and while none of the screenshots are showing anything actually explicit, there is definitely a lot of implication going on for this game called Romantic Player, which is tagged near the sexual content again. $2.69, Chinese only. It is interesting, particularly to see an adult game that is Chinese only, because most Chinese companies don't even begin to try to actually have nudity or be adult, because the censorship is already so strict. I don't think there really is a way to be approved or allowed to make adult games. Which arguably is a probably terrible idea, and if they did get a significant portion of the particularly the female audience of the Chinese population interested in adult ideas, thinking, mentality, they probably would be more interested in getting having children. Now, I don't know if that means they have to be married and become family units. Maybe just having children is enough. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see like surrogacies of, well, yeah, with a 16:1 male to female ratio, you probably should be a lot more open to like male on male couples being open in open relationships and adopting kids from females who just want to get paid to be surrogates and have a baby, but not have to spend all the time and energy to actually raise the child. Let's see. I don't think I'm gonna win here. Right now my deck has more cards in it, by the way, than it should. I did make a tweak or two and crafted another one of these cards, which was a, I believe, rare wild card. So I spent a penny. I spent a pretty penny on that. Okay. Okay. So I could activate this, and it would do 2, 4, 6, 7 damage. And I think that would be it. So I can't win. Not at the current moment. Maybe I can win now. Particularly if I block with this. Choose an artifact, creature, enchantment, a planeswalker, and a land. Wow. Okay, I am doomed now. So I'd have to do one of these, one of these. Do I have anything with flying? No. Well, we could do this. And is that it? Yeah. Oh, I did not realize it was destroying everything else. Well, that... I got my butt handed to me there. Yeah, we're teetering at gold tier 2. But I think I'm figuring it out. I do think also I probably will give up on trying to give like version numbers to the decks, because it's just this constant tweaking left and right with the decks, just taking something out, adding something in, adding a second copy of something, taking something out again. Next we have a game on Steam here called Lone Lands, which looks very artsy, but it's probably an asset flip game, if I was to guess. It seems like all you do is kind of jump around and collect elements, and when you collect elements, more buildings appear out of the water. I don't know if you die if you actually touch the water or not. But yeah, it is a platforming game. We definitely have seen similar games, parkour games. This one seems to be slightly more polished than some of the other ones we've seen. But yeah, you can just walk on the water. Interesting. So it's kind of no point, no risk gaming there. Well, regardless, I'll put it on the follow list and we'll see what people say. It's 59 cents. It's English only. It probably is a great example of one of those games that I would need a better version of that game. That concept, that idea could be expanded upon to something better. And sometimes some games are just on the wish list or follow list until something better replaces it. Whereas Valley feels like it is something worse compared to BioShock, and it came out after BioShock. So, like, what's really weird about Valley is until the last couple of hours of gameplay that I've played, where you're actually running into a lot of enemies and fighting, I couldn't even imagine there being a vertical slice, like, game pitch demo in the game to even show it to a publisher. Because it really was feeling like that was what the game was, is that we were, it was some pitch that they had given to a developer to get $1 million more and flesh it out and do a lot more to it. But no, I guess that really wasn't the case. It's just this really, really long first half of the game where nothing happens. Moving on, Komatsu has an article. Data Live Rin Dystopia has some screenshots for the PS4. This is a spirit romance visual novel due out September 24th in Japan. So, interesting that I guess they've got a whole gallery here of screenshots of these anime girls. Definitely end up saying anime girls a lot more than I say anime boys. The guy anime games are fewer and far further between, but often more notable and higher quality, I would say. Let's see. Next we have a Komatsu article. Metal Max Xeno Reborn details a playable POM battle dog Poochie and voice actors. I have no idea what this game is, but I feel like I might have seen this, but who knows. Yeah, this might be brand new stuff. It looks pretty low polygon. Oh, Metal Max is that low polygon tank game. It's coming to the PS4, right? Well, let's get down to the images. And then let's scroll back up. Yeah, it's coming to the PS4 and Switch. It's just really, really awkward and weird to have a game that is trying to build up hype around it, and yet it looks like it's got Vaseline on the camera lens. It's so low polygon, so ugly. Yeah, I'm not playing, they're not playing. Back and forth. Next we have a game on Steam called Pandora Galaxy, which looks like it's some kind of asset flip. Says it's like a strategy RPG. I don't know if maybe it's like an e-commerce thing, like Gazillionaire. And it looks like a Chinese game. $7.64 is way too expensive for the looks of it. Yeah, it's either a 4X game or it's a space commerce game, would be my two guesses. And And this is just taking forever. Next we have a game on Steam called Move It Up, which is like a VR rhythm game, although it kind of just looks like it's a Beat Saber clone that's just trying to hide the fact that it's a Beat Saber clone, because that's what I think the entire game actually is it's just a Beat Saber clone. $14.99 English only. I don't think we need a Beat Saber clone in my life. I don't think I even need Beat Saber in my life. This guy's not moving, so he's gonna disconnect and concede fairly quickly. So I just need to make sure I move. Let's see, next we have a game called The Vigilant Villa, which looks like it might be a adventure game, maybe hidden object game. Yeah, it looks like it might be Chinese in the fact that it seems like the entire game is displayed this way. Otherwise, these are weird screenshots. Yeah, it feels like it might be like a murder mystery visual novel experience. $5.99, English and Chinese and Japanese, but the only full audio is Chinese. 8 chapters. It might be a particularly long game. And it is rated positive right now, so I'm going to put this on the follow list. There might actually be a game there. Although I would, in all honesty, have to really think about playing a game like that before I finished the Zero Escape games that I already purchased and went out of my way to purchase in particular. Let's just go ahead and attack. Well, this one is not tagged nudity or sexual content, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of those games that has an R18, an adult patch. We have a game here on Steam called Azure Ring Virgin Enslaves Philianthropes, which I don't know what that word is, so I could be saying something particularly dirty and not even realizing it. It looks like it's kind of a beat-em-up Castlevania game, at least in some small part. But clearly there is also a major focus here on having the characters look lewd, but then there's a ton of upgrade systems too, so yeah, I don't know why you would lower yourself to making an adult game when you don't really need to make an adult game. And by lower yourself, I mean lower the target market that you could reach, instead of just making a regular game. If you can make a regular game. The vast majority of adult games are obvious low effort garbage games, so it does make sense why those have adult content in it, since that's the only selling point. But if you've got a game that even slightly looks like it's playable, there is definitely some roughness here in the background art as I'm watching the video, but it doesn't look terrible. I would say the camera often is zoomed out a little too much, but it seems like that's because you're fighting rather large monster bosses, and this might just be a boss rush game where it's fairly short and you're just doing You're just fighting a small group of enemies. The game itself, Azure Ring, is $17.09. It's Japanese full audio with Chinese and English as subtitles. I'm going to put it on the follow list because I'd like to see some reviews of it, because I suspect this will be one of those games that at the very least tricks a lot of people into buying it, and then they'll probably put unhappy reviews if they're not happy with it, or happy reviews if they are happy with it. Next we have a game on Steam here called Encode, which they say is a cyberpunk dystopian open world game. Well, before I saw that one guy, I was thinking this was probably a pretty low effort asset flip game, and it may still very well be a low effort asset flip game. It's hard to tell. It's $17.99, English only. I'll put it on the follow list. I'm uncertain about this. The screenshots are really not showing us anything, and it is dangerously approaching dark screenshot syndrome. And I am seeing in the video him, the main character, shooting somebody, so there is actual gameplay in it. But I really don't have time to wait to watch every single video on Steam of every single game. So, and a video trailer on Steam is often not super useful information. It's often deceptive at best or completely irrelevant at worst. Okay. Let's put this on the field. And we could sacrifice one and gain 2 life. Let's see. Attack with everything. If he blocks this one, fine. We'll then sacrifice this one. I thought this guy would have disconnected, but he's obviously moving enough to not concede the game. Next we have a game on Steam called Zero Based World, which looks like it's a Chinese attempt at making an open world survival game. It's already mixed, and now all the screenshots don't want to load. It really doesn't look like it's a fully thought through product from what I saw on the video playing. It does seem like it's attempting to just be a Fortnite clone with cutesy art style that doesn't seem consistent. I mean, you've got this dinosaur over here. We've seen a knight, we've seen fantasy, we see Asian. It's just kind of all over the place. It's early access. English is not supported. It's 16:14 in Chinese only. Alright. Okay. Now what we want to do is do that, and then do that, and then do this, and then do that. That should be 3 health to bring back those 2. Gamatsu has an article. Smilegate establishes a Barcelona studio to develop AAA open world console games. They're now recruiting staff. We may have already talked about Smilegate being established and Gematsu just taking his time to get around to it, to reporting on that. Sometimes that happens. Usually Gematsu is the first one to report of the ones I follow, which there are only 3 or 4 video game journal sites I follow. Usually they're the first to report it, particularly if it's from Japan or the East that they're reporting on something. But I guess every now and then they can be kind of late to report something from the West. Where, in contrast, almost all Western video game journalist sites don't report anything that comes from the East ever. In fact, I've seen almost 100% contradictory stories where there is a more Eastern website saying that Japanese critics are praising Ghost of Tsushima, and I've seen the Giant Beast cast basically say it's a boring, bland game, fine to play, but there's nothing special about it. At a certain point, I'm starting to really feel like it may just be the Giant Bomb crew in particular that are just anti-Eastern games. And I think there may very well be a large amount of that compared to like even the other Western websites like Kotaku, Polygon, things like that. It may be that Giant Bomb is kind of the worst of the worst as far as the anti-Eastern game mentality. DraftSim put out an article here. Where are the gift cards from MTG Arena? None of these videos, none of these images are loaded. It brings about kind of an interesting thought that if you were a parent and you wanted to give gift cards to somebody who was playing Magic Arena, there's no way to do it without handing over your credit card and then potentially letting them use everything, buy as much stuff as they want. But I don't know. I don't know if you really need gift cards for Magic, considering how there is just such a large percentage of people that either shouldn't be playing Magic or don't play Magic. Yeah. It's such a niche thing. It's the equivalent of giving someone a gift card to like Bed Bath and Breakfast. If there's nothing at Bed Bath and Beyond, or then there's really not a lot of reason to use that, or want to use that, or want to receive that. And gift cards in general don't get used, so I think giving cash is a much better gift if you're going to give anything. Although, again, in these current times, maybe just don't give anything. Make something homemade, and that's about it. Let's see, play this. Play this. Magic is still running into this problem of it not moving fast enough for me. Just doesn't really speed up the process as much as I think it should. Next we have a game on Steam called The Last Archmage Journey of Light. I think I wanted to point this out, just that this looks like an RPG Maker game, but it very well may not be. It's tagged as a CRPG, which I would assume is Chinese RPG. But yeah, the art and the style looks a little bit different, but not particularly any better than an RPG Maker game. It's $7.19. It's English and Chinese, so just like a Chinese RPG. We're still getting this. I did curate some of the games, but you can fairly easily tell that even in my effort to curate the games that came out, there's basically nothing coming out still. And I think that will just be the case for a long time, is that we will just run into no games of import coming out, lots of games that were coming out that were going to be AA and AAA games getting pushed back. Rogue Legacy 2 delayed its launch, or its beta, which I'm not surprised about that. You know what the problem here with the Magic in app here is? There's just no rollback. There's no catch up here. Like, it's not letting me play until this person says I can play, when it would be fairly easy for it to let me at least make one more move. Like, the fact that the card just waits up there until the person says resolve is kind of ridiculous. You should be able to at least do something. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article. The mobile dev Carbonated raises $8.5 million in seed funding. Let's see. Do we know any games that they've ever made? Nope. So, no. Nothing really to mention there. Like, why can't I just lock in this set of actions and say do these actions, and then it say your actions were interrupted, or your plan was interrupted? I don't know how you visually represent that and explain that to a Magic player, to say you're not currently playing, you're instead loading up actions, and then if they don't resolve, we'll say roll back to the past, and then you can react at that point. But that is, it's kind of like if you were playing chess by mail and you were a chess genius, you might say, here in this envelope is my move. If you make this counter move, open this envelope. If you make this counter move, open this inner envelope, and put 3 or 4 moves in the same chess by mail letter, just to make it move a little bit faster. Although I imagine people playing chess by mail are doing it out of an abundance of free time, so they don't particularly care to make it go faster. Let's see. Gamasutra has an article. Future Play is looking for a senior game animator. That's in Helsinki, Finland. There seems to be several Helsinki, Finland-based video game companies. The Danganronpa games are leaving the PlayStation Store. Select Danganronpa titles on the PlayStation TM Store will no longer be available for purchase from NIS America. Please refer to the dates listed below for more information on when each title will no longer be available. Now, notice it says from NIS America, so maybe they're getting a different publisher, but I wouldn't be surprised if they lost a license, or they're just trying to work together to make like a Danganronpa remaster bundle. So what they have here is another episode, Ultra Despair Girls, for the PS Vita, which is leaving 8/31. Trigger Happy Havoc for the PS Vita, which is leaving 9/4. Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair for the PS Vita, 9/4. Danganronpa 3 Killing Harmony for the Vita is 9/25. And then Danganronpa 3 Killing Harmony for the PS4 is $9.25. So this might be a larger dropping of support for Vita games on the PlayStation Store. Although I don't know why PlayStation would do that. It would be a little bit crazy and tinfoil hat-ish to think that all of these games have been kicked off the Sony PlayStation Store because they're not to the liking of the California Sony division. Like, I don't think Danganronpa is particularly adult in its content or lewd. I know there's a demon character that is running around with his shirt off, and then there's like a succubus character that's slightly in bikini style outfit. Maybe it gets a little bit more lewd with Ultra Despair Girl. But these mainline games, I don't think so. So yeah, unless NIS America lost the license, I am confused as to what is going on with that one. And this is going to be some major overkill. Every time this does damage, this is going to do one more damage, which, since these two are doing 1 damage each for every character that died, we're basically doing 3 damage, which adds to the multiplier quite a bit. And that brings us up to gold tier rank 1. So I think we can make it to platinum if we're lucky. Let's hop back into a game. Game of Sutra has an article. Microsoft is ending production of the Xbox One X and the Xbox One S All Digital Edition, which probably means that they have enough for what they expect to sell. It is interesting that this is in direct contrast to Sony announcing that they increased their production orders. But I imagine, that they are probably just trying to tool up and open up room for the factories that probably are working somewhat slower and at a much lower amount of efficiency in China to make the Xbox Series X. They're probably just trying to get those factories ready to go and start creating them, the units. This would make a lot more sense if they just said they were getting rid of the all digital editions and keeping everything else in production, or if they were just keeping the Xbox One X itself. But yeah, I'm not super shocked by them ending production. It's probably something they shouldn't have announced, though. In all honesty, it would have been smarter for them to just significantly reduce production until the Xbox Series X is out, and then very quickly in production, instead of adding this potential arguing point that could be made that Microsoft just is doing so bad that they're not even making their current generation consoles anymore. I could cycle. Should I cycle? I guess I should cycle. Matsu has an article here. Rogue Legacy 2 Early Access is delayed to August 18th. Okay. Yep, I think more and more things will just continuously be delayed. So it's kind of weird to even hear about delays anymore, because it really just does not mean anything anymore, to me at least. Gamma Sutra has an article. Microsoft is adding xCloud to the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate in September, which is, xCloud is the streaming service, which I don't know if xCloud lets you do much without also owning the games. Let's see. Adding of cloud gaming in September, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate members will be able to play over 100 Game Pass games on their phone and tablet. So it's kind of, I imagine, an early run, early access experiment that they're having the Ultimate members, people who have the Ultimate memberships, test for them more than anything. But I definitely could see the idea of xCloud working very, very well. Maybe even better than the next generation of Xbox. Like, if you could get a good 1,000 games or so that are maybe a little bit older but still worth playing, like Xbox 360, Xbox One games, if you can get those to stream to a cell phone, you have completely taken over the market as far as mobile gaming is concerned. So that would mean a lot. TechRepto has an article. Adrian Camellars, I don't know how you'd pronounce Chmiel. I imagine that's a misspell. Details come midnight. The detective game that never wars. Is this a misspelling also? Huh. This is a Polish person who at some point founded People Can Fly, which I think made Bulletstorm. But yeah, this is gross looking, unique to say the least. This was a game that was cancelled though, so it never came out. Well, that is definitely an image. Like, I don't know how you sell a game when you're going that weird with it. Well, that might be eye-catching, and the idea of making a game around a pulp comic is somewhat interesting. This kind of looks like just a generic game. Maybe an Alone in the Dark type clone would be the best example of it. If this had come out around the time I imagine it was in production, I imagine there might have been a game there. But I don't know. You have a girl that's rather off scale as far as anatomy is concerned. And he just lit a cigarette while holding the girl and dangerously close to burning the girl. Let alone ignoring the fact that he's smoking right in her face. Well, yeah, that looked like a internal demo of a game. way more of an internal demo of a game than what I had seen in the first half of Valley. But also I could see why a game like that would feel rather derivative and just not really doing anything. And I would argue pulp comics and the pulp genre in general is just never going to be popular enough again to sell. I don't know if it was ever popular enough in the first place to really sell. So yeah, it really is not something you can do anything with. It's kind of like the Sin City movies, where that Sin City comic book seemed like it was fairly popular enough to be a successful comic book, but them trying to turn that into a movie once or twice really was a failure. And I think a lot of that was the artsy nature in which they were trying to depict it and make it feel like a comic book, when they really should have just taken the general story and made it an average movie that would have a lot more appeal to replay on cable. Nowadays, if Sin City is airing on cable, they're probably making a special event of it. They're not just going to throw it up there next to, say, an Indiana Jones movie or any other like action movie, where you don't have to wonder about whether their audience would be there or not. Next, we have a game on Steam called The Edge of Reality, or The Edge of Reality. It's tagged as a visual novel, and it kind of has a light Victorian feel to the characters, but I wouldn't say that they're badly drawn by any means. No, this may very well just be a boring visual novel. It's $1.49, and it's a whole bunch of languages. I'm gonna put this on the fall list, and we'll see how that goes. I can see what the reviews are and see what the average gameplay on something like that is. Let's see. Next we have the game Devoid, which looks like it is a horror game of some sort. This might be a little bit too weird of a game. It kind of feels like that Yumi Miki game that came out, the original one. $5.94, English, Japanese, Chinese. Again, this looks like this might be weirder. There we go, we got a free victory. This might have something unique to it, but also it might be absolutely nothing. Wow, we're getting victories quick and early. I was noticing that yesterday when I was playing too, is that we were getting fairly large amounts of discount connects and easy victories, and that's when I started playing ranked and started going up the ranked ladder. But I'm not sure we really have enough time to potentially try to get above platinum, if we can make it even to platinum. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Jiangshi Daioshi X Daioshi. It's tagged as a visual novel. Kind of feels like more of a 90s anime style, or at least early 2000s. It's free to play, which is weird. And then there's a DLC that's not available, apparently, and it's English and Japanese. It would be weird, certainly, to have a visual novel that's free, because I can kind of just say go check it out and see what it is. It's getting tagged as a comic book, so maybe it's a particularly short just advertisement for a manga or an anime series that's coming out or has come out. We're gonna just keep on riding this victory train. TechRaptor has an article. A $900+ Ada Wong Resident Evil statue has been revealed by Darkside Collectibles, which for $900 plus, I would say these images look pretty bad. This head seems to be off scale, smaller than a human body should be. Yeah, if you were to roll your head onto your shoulder, your ear should probably hit the very edge of your shoulder. This one looks so small that it's going to hit halfway through her shoulder. I'm not certain, but I think Ada Wong is probably a little bit bustier. Her arms are probably a little bit less muscular. Her chest size from like shoulder to shoulder seems a little broad. Her waist seems to be kind of high. Her hips maybe a little too wide. You've got a gun here and a gun here. But this isn't like a classic gun that Ada Wong is known for using. I don't even think that this is the classic dress that she's known for wearing. She wore a red dress. I would like to see any image from any game that even comes close to what the statue looks like. And then like this trailer from the remake of Resident Evil 2. Let's see. Yeah. Here she's not wearing any kind of red dress that's like that. Yeah, look at this. Her hip is wider. Her butt is smaller. Her shoulder is smaller. Her legs are more slender. Her head is the right portion. Like they've got a lot of things off based on these images, and that's really all I could get around to that. And then of course there's just the obvious and utter ridiculousness of spending $900+ on any kind of statue. Like, I have some figures, sometimes referred to as Figma in Japan, and I got them fairly cheap because I bought them from a bookstore that was apparently somebody was ordering them and didn't know what they were, or what, I don't know, but it was getting priced like at $15, maybe $20. I don't think I paid more than $30 for any one figure, which at the time that may have been slightly more expensive than an action figure, but in comparison to the prices of the same figures in Japan, they would have been $70, $80 figures, because Figma and figures are just incredibly expensive. It is not a poor man's game, but if you can get a decent deal, because of that, there wasn't really any choice or selection, so I literally don't think I could name any of the characters that I own. I don't recognize them from any anime at all. Some of them may have their names mentioned. One of them represents a OS X, so it represents like Windows XP. But that's about it. Another one kind of looks like Lum, so it might be Lum. And then a couple others could easily be from standard anime things, but they're definitely pretty enough to decorate a bookshelf. Particularly decorate my anime DVD shelves as just kind of in pieces. But But yeah, I would definitely not go out of my way to buy any more or any specific ones. But if there was one that was $20-$30, I'd consider it. But it would also be a frivolous thing. Yeah, when it comes to me and bookshelves in general, though, there is this kind of consistent issue of anything I buy that is first and foremost going to end up on a bookshelf before I do anything else with it probably means I will never do anything with it. And that's a waste of money and not something that I really need to do. Moving on, we have Beyond the Steel Sky is now available. So far it's been rated positive. I'm going to leave it on the following list a little bit. This is a point-and-click adventure that is a sequel to Beneath the Steel Sky. That was a game that was like 10 or 20 years ago. It came out and is actually free to play. If you go to ScumVM, you can just download it via their download section. You probably don't have to play the first game to know to play this. $24.49 is kind of a high price, but there's a lot of relevancy here too. English full audio and a whole bunch of other languages. So yeah, I'm gonna keep it on the following list, but almost certainly it will make it to the wish list, and it almost certainly deserves it to make it to the wish list. Let's keep on moving with the news. I want to wrap up all this. Here we have a game called Fun Time, which looks like it's a neon based game that's like asteroids with maybe several other gameplay mechanics. 2 little arcade games for $11.24. At the very least, for that price, they're offering you more than one very simplistic arcade game. It seems like they're offering you 2 or 3, but that still is way too expensive. And since it's all just neon polygons, definitely doesn't feel like it's much of an offer, at least visually. Let's see what we want to block. Let's just do no blocks. Well, actually I should have blocked one. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article, Remnant from the Ashes DLC subject 2923, Ward Prime trailer and screenshots. I don't remember a game called Remnant from the Ashes. Is this like that horror game that you pick different classes, and this might be that game. That game really deserved a lot more hype. And that's something that definitely doesn't happen very often, is that I'll say or feel that a game deserved more hype and more attention. But there definitely was kind of this fantasy western game that I think is Remnant from the Ashes that was only talked about for about a week, and honestly people should have been playing it for about a month. Should have been something akin to like a Borderlands 1, which Borderlands 3 did come out on their Twitter and said there will be no hot fixes this week because they're working on patches, which is to say there's no patch this week because we're working on patches. But I can't say that I ultimately hate that idea too much. Let's see. I'm just gonna hit that. And then I'm gonna activate this. No, I'm not. So I've got 8. Can I win with 8 health? Not unless I can get a flying creature on the ground. That's what this is really going to boil down to. Can I get something flying on the field in this one turn? And if I can't do it, I'm doomed. We'll see how this plays out, but I think I'm doomed. Next we have a game on Steam called Killer Dog, which seems to be a very old school, like Windows 95 looking game, where you play as a dog, running around being a killer, I guess. $2.39 English and Russian. Looks pretty low effort, pretty bad quality. I probably should have attacked with some of these, but we'll just see. Because if I could just get 1 or 2 of these, if I could get 2 of these gone, then I can do something. But if I play Taste of Death right now, he'll just sacrifice this, this, and this, and leave these 3 damage dealers. These 2 characters with an attack of 3. Next we have Super Hot Mind Control Delete. I'm not sure there's actually a story here in this game, and it's not just a game where you do runs and then try to improve upon your runs over and over again. But it seems like people are liking it, and Super Hot is already on my wish list. So I guess I take this off the following list and just leave it on the wish list now. I don't know why it was both on the wish list and the following list, but it was. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna sacrifice this guy. Watch this. Sacrifice this guy. And then take this guy and take him out of the graveyard by putting him back on the field. Then this guy won't be able to activate his ability. Okay. Think we've got it. Let's do this here. Here and here. And we'll see if he's got something. He had something that would do more damage to me. Got unlucky there. Or I think that was mostly luck, or just got outplayed. Let's be honest. It wasn't luck at all. Next we have a game called Pillowheads. It's party time, which looks like it might be a player versus player, kid friendly, like arena battle game. Selling for $10.79, single player, but clearly a multiplayer focus. And yeah, while this might have slightly more visual polish than you normally would see, doesn't really attract my attention since there's probably no story and no real game other than just running around hitting people. See. Next we have a game on Steam called We Should Talk, which is tagged as a visual novel where you apparently are just going to be texting people and then talking to these low polygon people. Feels like maybe it's a interactive communication system more than an actual visual novel that will tell you an actual story. It's $6.99. It's English only. Put it on the follow list. So it would be an interesting Western take on visual novels, just to kind of continue the narrative. I hate to use that word, but it's kind of the truth that whenever Westerners try to do visual novels, they do it in a particularly weird and different way, which is a good thing because it would be really lazy for them to just try and copy everything and then do a worse job because they don't have the experience and the understanding. You'll get things like Ruby instead of Neon Genesis Evangelion. Let's see. Moving on, we have a game called Simply Puzzles Junctions, which seems to be a puzzle game. Single screen Unity puzzle game. It's $2.99 and it has numbers as achievements and 10 achievements, so it kind of feels like an achievement game. There's 100 puzzles created and tested by hand, which I question the sanctity of that. And honestly, I've just had enough with puzzle games, so I don't really see a reason to continue down that path. Let's go and cycle. I guess your attack here, since you have Death Touch and Lifelink. They have this game called The Veil Shadow of the Crown demo, now available for Xbox One. I have not heard anything about this game, so I wanted to check it out. We have a screenshot that is just darkness and darkness halfway through the minute and a half trailer. It's just more darkness, more darkness, more darkness, more darkness. Wow. So that trailer shows absolutely nothing. So I have immediately lost interest in The Veil Shadow of the Crown. See, next we have a game called Accident the Pilot, which apparently is maybe a demo for Barn Finders, but Barn Finders is looking for auctions, so why is this a demo for that? Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just... No, it's a demo for Accident. Interesting. So there's a demo, and then there's an advertisement for a different game, then there's a notification of the game. This idea isn't a terrible idea, to play as a paramedic and maybe play through a sequence instead of playing as a paramedic, just doing random things and coming upon accidents. I could see this idea, particularly if you were in like some kind of time loop and you're a paramedic and you go through the scenario once and you try to save one person and triage one person, and then that turns into a revelation, or you fail miserably and that person dies, and then you go through another time loop and you have to you then decide to try and save somebody different. That would be interesting. But you would have to put a lot of complications and a lot of tricks to it. The 999 game I played, the first of the Nonary games, kind of played that way, but then it was just way too much visual novel and way too much text. Whereas this looks like there would be at least some quick time events to do. But this could also be fairly low effort stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if it actually is not really anywhere as interesting as it tries to make itself. Finally I get another mana. I really don't feel like I have too few mana elements or swamps in this deck. But every now and then you'll run into a game where you just don't have enough. Maybe I should have mulliganed. Next we have a game on Steam called Incident Commander, which that sounds like a military level or term, and from the looks of this looks like it's just kind of a city builder strategy game, and it kind of looks asset flippy. It's $14.99, English full audio, third party EULA. Why is this on the follow list in the first place? Well, I guess it's because it's mostly positive, and I must have seen this before. You control the first responding teams who can stop the growing threat. So it's like controlling disasters and sending out teams for fires and paramedic emergencies and things like that. Which there's several games like that very well may not be reasonable to play anymore, just in the current political world that we're living in. Let's see. Let's block with that. Next we have a game called Golf Pool VR, which seems to be a mixture of playing golf and playing pool, but really looks like it's just a bunch of asset flips, random asset flips in a cyberpunk city and on the moon and in Antarctica. Yeah, this doesn't quite cross the line to the point in which this would feel like an artistic decision or an interesting twist on golf or pool, and it just feels like it's somebody being silly with some assets that were probably cheap. So I'm not gonna bother to put that on the following list. Let's see, next we have a game called The Falling Tower, which looks kind of like a Game Boy box puzzle pushing game. It's 89 cents, English and Chinese. It doesn't look terrible, and that price is not terrible, but there's kind of nothing here that actually makes it look like a game that anybody would actually want to play. It's tagged as an RPG, so maybe it isn't box pushing as much as it is an RPG, but even at that, that's no more interesting. Let's see. Nowhere Prophet is coming to Xbox One July 29th and the PS4 and Switch July 30th. An Indian-infused digital dustpunk card game. Yeah, I guess I've heard of this game. So we'll keep an eye out for it. It's like a 15-minute video of how you actually play. It does seem like there's kind of a fairly long tutorial if it takes 15 minutes. I believe this is one of those Mega Man Battle Network style games with card mechanics on top of it. Okay. It still looks interesting. Let's see. How are we gonna do this? Here? Or here and here? See, next we have a game on Steam called Dead Age 2, which is already mixed, and it's on my Discover queue. It doesn't look particularly interesting. It looks like it's kind of a mobile game with 3D graphics tapped onto it. Early access for $14.39. And the real question here would be Dead Age 1, which apparently I already own. Apparently I purchased it in 2017. Do I recognize this game? No, I have never played this game, which goes to say something. But also, look, this is rated very positively. So, yeah. I guess I'll put this on the following list for that reason. We'll see if the mixed reviews improve, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't. And I really would need to play the first game before I could justify doing anything else with it. I'm doomed to lose. I should just concede. There's no point in wasting time. Yeah, we're teetering back and forth, back and forth. As far as the rankings go, still trying to just burn through all this news. I should have curated a lot more. Like this game, Block Breaker Ninja, a cheap Arkanoid clone, which we haven't seen a cheap Arkanoid clone in a while. $4.49 English. This is a prime example of something that could have been curated, and there was no reason to talk about, other than to say we saw an Arkanoid clone, and there hasn't been a lot of those. TechRaptor has an article here. A full motion video thriller game called Gamer Girl launches this September, and it seems to me from all the screenshots that this is going to be centering a story very much around a Twitch Gamer Girl streamer, that someone who's got the camera so it looks down the cleavage, someone who does the cosplay and all of that, and doesn't seem to really be actually doing any real gaming at all. Yeah, but there's really no there's really no telling how much of the game actually, what direction the story goes, or how much of it is actually realistic or entertaining. It seems like the majority of the game you're playing as like a moderator for her chat, and so you're just acting as a chat moderator, which is probably going to be a pretty boring experience. I guess you run into the risk of a game like that actually just connecting you to somebody's chat and then using you as unpaid labor to actually moderate someone's chat. Next we have a game on Steam called The Call of Karen, which this is the first game, I think, to use the Karen meme. So it does go to show that it takes about a month, maybe 5 or 6 weeks before a meme can be turned into a game. Which probably means that some of these low effort games are delayed for 5 weeks or so and not just instantly approved the second they're submitted. That would be my guess, at least on Steam. And you could kind of assume that a game like this, which clearly is just like an asset flip game, could have been under any name at all. It's mixed, it's free to play, it's English only, there's nothing to say here. Seems like you just run around and interact with a few things in the house. This may not even have anything to actually do with the Karen meme, and it may just be a coincidence. That might be the case, actually. Well, I've got a new shift code. But Gearbox official tweeted out, "There will be no Borderlands 3 hotfixes this week as we focus on efforts for the upcoming patch. More info to come." Okay. No patch because we're working on a patch. That clearly just means they fell behind, and in all fairness to Gearbox, we have not seen a lot of examples of them falling behind publicly, but we have certainly seen some internal examples that almost certainly do indicate that they have fallen behind. I think Aliens Colonial Marines, I think a big chunk of that was people falling behind or not working on it at all. They do have a fairly good policy of not announcing dates until they're really ready to launch games, and they really haven't launched too many games anyway, so yeah, unlike other game developers of Gearbox's level, we haven't had any major stories of delays that I can think of. Instead, it's all just major stories about the CEO, Randy Pitchford, putting his foot in his mouth or doing something terrible. Which is way, way worse. We already talked about that. Square Enix opened a new department called the Ballon Company, which is interesting. I guess maybe Square Enix, since they lost the Hitman team, is trying to look for potential new new companies that could make them more games, because I guess Square Enix still does want to be in the video game business, even if nobody wants to do as much business with them. Let's see. Next we have a game called My Unreal Pet, which looks like a VR game where Maybe you have a pet in an Unreal Engine asset flip apartment. It really doesn't look like there's enough polish here. It doesn't look like there's enough yard here for a dog that big. Yeah, and having to feed and pick up the poo of a virtual dog is not really what you want to do with a virtual dog. You kind of want to leave those aspects, those negative aspects alone. And even in VR, having a dog and not being able to feel his warmth, his fur, him being able to interact with you and actually act like a dog is kind of ridiculous. Here I'm seeing a video where he's trying to pet the guy and his hand is just clipping through him. He's trying to punch the dog, and eventually that convinced the dog to start attacking him. So animal cruelty in the trailer. $8.99 English only. This is not polished. Not what you'd want in a pet simulator. And it seemed to have been only a dog, so I don't know why it's called My Unreal Pet when it should have been My Unreal Dog. Moving on, for the Switch, Gamatsu has the Otome, that's Young Maiden visual novel, Tashi X Alice, Heads and Tails, coming this fall. Which, okay. Yep. So, yeah, another visual novel. Very consistently. Let's see. This isn't gonna work for me. I'm gonna lose. I need this to attack this and hope somebody bites and blocks it. Two hours ago, Minecraft announced that on July 31st they're going to premiere an all-new YouTube series, How We Make Minecraft, a step-by-step guide to ripping us off. Subscribe to their channel. So I guess I'll subscribe to their channel, but yeah, it's going to be kind of weird whether they're talking about how did Marcus Pearson program the original Minecraft in Java, or are they talking about how the current Mojang team programs Minecraft Bedrock Edition in the C++ or whatever language Bedrock Edition is actually programmed into, because those are fairly different things. Let's see. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article, a game called Moon for the Switch has an English teaser website launched in its first screenshot. It seems like it might be some kind of RPG, but there's just like one screenshot, so this is really premature hyping of a game, and even Moon is too generic of a name. Next we have a game called The Haunted Exome Theater. I don't know what Exome means. Again, I could be saying something very dirty. It looks like a low-effort horror RPG maker game. It's 59 cents, English only. Definitely nothing there that interests me. Let's keep on moving. TechRaptor has an article here. Everything we know about Hellpoint, release date, platforms, price, and DLC. Seems weird to put an article out just talking about a game and hyping it up, when the real important information is that it's launching July 30th, at least for PC, and then they don't know a lot of things. This is a weird way to write a TechRaptor article. Like, it feels like it's a interview that has been edited down into a bullet point section, which maybe it's a new experiment in formatting for them. Not sure I like it, but I'd be willing to give it a try. Alright, well, that's wrecked me. Just take those defeats early. Take the defeats, get back into the game, and try to get some wins. That's the trick. I am contemplating just always playing standard instead of not playing standard, because unlike Hearthstone, there doesn't seem like there's a major difference on your odds of winning, whether you're playing ranked or not ranked. And it really feels like there should be a major difference there, that I should be able to win a lot easier playing unranked. Let's go ahead and mulligan and make sure we start with 3 mana each time. I think that's the right move. Gamatsu has an article here. The Kanandaigua Jet Girls launches August 25th in the West, a jet racing game with gun shooting. It is kind of an Japanese anime lewd take on Mario Kart Double Dash, I think, more than anything. But oddly, since it is coming to PC, it's possibly going to be something that actually could replace the desire to play Mario Kart games, which there are no Mario Kart games on PC, and there aren't anything really that really competes by it. There's a couple of Garfield racing games, but none of them are particularly good. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Paradox has acquired the Surviving the Aftermath developer Iceflake Studios, which I don't recognize a game called Surviving the Aftermath, but alright. Next we have a game on Steam called Astro Runner, which is clearly just like a tech demo, an infinite runner while flying in space down some kind of hyper tube or cloud. It's very, very low polygon and unpolished. $4.99, somehow being compared to Dead Space. Whole bunch of language that supports. There are several outer space games that came out 5 years ago or so, like The Outer Wilds is one of them. I don't know if there really is any relevancy to playing any of those space games. There's that one that was terrible when it first launched and promised a bunch of things, and took them a year and a half until they actually had all the things they said it was going to have. I don't know if it's relevant to play that game either. So, and honestly, I'm kind of perfectly happy to not play space games, even if there are a few that might actually be justifiable to play. Next we have a game on Steam called Argy Bargy, which looks like it's a card game. Visual polish is alright, but the variety in cards seems to be fairly limited. Kind of feels like it might be a kid's game. It's $5.99. And it's single player, but it's obviously going to have an online player versus player focus. And it has in-app purchases, and it's English and Russian. And that's just one too many red flags to actually catch my attention. I already have far too many CCGs in my follow list or wish list, and I need to start being more realistic and start removing some of those, because it's just not going to happen. Like, I'm not going to cover that many card games. Gamatsu has a first details for a game called QV for the Switch, which is apparently an action adventure game. So it's QV, very stylized. And no telling what kind of game it is. Kind of looks like it might be just an action adventure platforming game. Maybe more about walking around and solving puzzles than anything else. A little bit of Portal technology in it. I think we've actually seen some of this before. And since this is kind of a simplistic puzzle game, I can see the desire to throw in an anime girl and catch people's attention that way. And then throw in a weird penguin, catch people's attention that way. And here we have like a dark version of that girl. And this is just a really beef trailer. Yeah, that's what she's going to look like for real in the game, so. Yeah, this feels very much like a cell phone game, more than anything. But it's coming to a Switch. There is definitely a danger in more and more low effort games that would have been on a cell phone ending up on the Switch. Next we have a game called Tri-6 Infinite, which looks like it's kind of an infinite runner where you sometimes can get some air. Doesn't look very polished, nor does it look very fast. It does seem like it is stealing some ideas from the Tron Light Cycles game in the movie that never really got translated to an actual good game as far as I could tell. There is like one Tron Disney game I haven't played. This is $4.99 with a third-party account and a third-party EULA, English and German. That's some major red flags there, so I have to say no to that. Let's go ahead and attack first, and then draw a card. Need to hurry up. I'm jumping through some of this stuff because it's just not worth talking about, or we've already talked about it before. But I'm going quiet too. Next we have a game called My Isekai Afterlife. Isekai meaning another world. This is a low effort MS Paint looking animation RPG Maker game. Or maybe not actually made with RPG Maker. But yeah, I can't really see a reason why I'd want to play any of this. $5.39, English only. Being compared to Honey Pop, which is odd because it's not tagged with any nudity or sexual content. So, yeah, Steam's comparison engine's still pretty bad. Next we have a game on Steam called Alien Armageddon, which seems like it's kind of an infinite runner bomber game. Side-scrolling shooter, I guess might be the best way to describe it. It's $2.39, English only, allegedly full audio. Yeah, there's nothing here. See if we can actually start winning and finish up on these games. Next we have a game on Steam called Cascading Failure, which looks like a first-person shooter game that actually might be a decent first-person shooter game. It doesn't look amazingly good by any means, and perhaps first-person militaristic team-based shooters do have to look amazingly good or play amazingly good to have enough of a fan base, but this definitely doesn't feel like a low effort asset flip either. You don't have this much of a menu if you're putting in half the effort. It's $19.99. It's English full audio, 3 achievements. I'm gonna put this on the fall list since it's early access, and we'll see what people say. And it does seem like it's online co-op, not player versus player, which might affect some decisions. As far as whether or not I'd want to play it. Next we have a game called Illuminati Simulator Vr, which is clearly a low effort troll game. It's $6.69, which apparently means you cannot set something for $6.66 on Steam. There's like no price comparison. The yen is 676 yen for that price. And this is English full audio. That would be kind of ironically funny if the only real control that Valve has on their storefront, and pretty much everything else gets approved without question, the only real control is you can't price things at $6.66. That would be insanely odd. Here we have yet another one of these low effort games with just anime girls dancing around. Although this one's set in a gallery with anime pictures in the background also. It does seem like there's enough images here, unless they're being repeated, to make it questionable that these are actually licensed images. But they are basically doing the exact same like dance animations that we've seen been pre-bought and asset flipped over and over again. So there's $3.74. Apparently there's an adult version of this. It's English, allegedly full audio with 1 achievement, so that pretty much tells me that it is an achievement game. I imagine you get the achievement very quickly. Yeah, I missed an opportunity over here to actually win. Well, do less, do more damage. I guess I could do more of that too. Well, the adult version is literally showing 3D models completely naked. Like, it's not the anime style, but it's also not real world people. So VR Galley Sexy Adult Exhibition is the exact same game though. They've just changed the images on the walls to nude 3D models, and they've changed the 3D models from the anime girls into just 3D models of women. And yeah, That's pretty low effort. I would argue there is also sometimes this implication that fans of anime girls are by default always not fans of a more real world model and images. It's not guaranteed to be true. There are definitely some small group of anime girl fans that believe only in 2D and don't like the 3D, the real world people, but that's more of a joke than a reality, I would say. Guess we need to block. I'm gonna have to block and try and win here. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Stratus, which looks like it is kind of a tiny tower concept with also flying around to different areas to pick up people and get resources or interact. Seems like it's kind of all over the place. It's $9.99. It's English only. How is this described? Casual simulation game set in the sky. Build a flying ship to visit different islands, engage in combat, trade with merchants, and manage your citizens. Yeah, that seems to be... That would have been my guess as to what was going on. So that'll do 3 damage to him. So how do I do 5 more damage? Next we have a game on Steam called Death Come True, which is rated mostly positive. This is from the creator of the Danganronpa series. So it's kind of weird that the Danganronpa series are being removed from NIS America. So there's some weirdness there. This is a full motion video game. It is going to be probably a little janky and probably a little weird. It's $15.99, which is probably a little expensive. Typical in cult hit Japanese games. Games that, in this case, this game could be a cult hit. So this just needs to stay on the following list, and we'll just have to see what happens. And I've just lost. But yeah. The game right now is at 70%, which I guess is mostly positive. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's fairly short and fairly generic. And I've fallen all the way down to the bottom of gold tier 1. How much time do we have until the month ends? $14 days. So we still got some time. Let's open this pack. Wild cards, kind of pointless wild cards. Let's check out how many of those were actually new. Second copy of this, third copy of this, fourth copy of this, fourth copy of this, and the remaining cards were just redundant uncommon cards. I probably should spend all my uncommons going forward, all my commons and uncommons, just crafting wild decks, like things that are in historic. Anyways, let's wrap up for today. Here we have Dreamland Solitaire Dark Prophecy. It's been a while since we've seen a solitaire game on Steam release. It's probably been 4 or 5 months. $5.59, English, German, Russian. If you need another solitaire game that is the weird solitaire that is not Klondike solitaire, this is an opportunity, I suppose. Probably doesn't do anything new or different. They never seem to do. Next, we have a game on Steam called Doria, which seems like it might be a game where you just walk through different doors and then you walk out of other doors, and it's some kind of like puzzle game by the looks of it. And that might very well be all there is to this game. So what's the price? $15.59. That's too expensive. This game is designed to let you take an empty path, get no clues, and still finish. In a way, that's the point. Wow. So this is a garbage game, obviously, and they're just trying to sell it to make it look flashy at a high price too. Yeah, I'm not falling for that one. Somebody can come back and tell me if Doria turns out to be really, really good, which it almost certainly won't. There's a bundle going on right now, and I don't cover all the sales, but for $1.23 at the moment, you can get Play With Me Escape Room and Distrent Deluxe Edition, or I can get that, and then also you can get Dead Synchronicity, which I already own, Simulacra, Downfall, which is the first in the Cat Lady games. So I guess that explains why that's so cheap for me. So I could buy 2 games. No, I would for $1.23. I think everybody else would pay more. So there's a bit of a bundle. There was something specifically on the storefront that was on sale, and I was gonna try and e-beg a little bit here. Not Plague Tale, that's still too expensive. But Far Cry 4 here. I don't know if there's a deluxe edition, but the one they're advertising is $5.49 and 99 cents. Far Cry New Dawn is $9.99. Far Cry Primal is the one I'd be most interested in at $5.99. Super Hot's at $10. Far Cry 3 is at $2.99. That's a real cheap offer. And Far Cry Blood Dragon is $2.24. I could probably buy that since that's a standalone game. Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen is $8.99. If somebody gifted me that, then I could play it before watching the anime. And then there's just a publisher sale. What is this publisher? Microids. Yeah, Microids has some old games, like this game Flashback. I could get that for 99 cents. There would be no big problem with doing that. I actually have some store credit right now, but it doesn't mean I have to spend it. Could just sit on it later. Yeah. Microids doesn't have anything else besides Flashback that would really be reasonable to purchase. Trying to wrap up here, we have a game called Cyber Serif, which looks like it's a shoot-'em-up game. Looks fairly generic, Windows 95-ish. It's $3.99, English only. That's a little too expensive. Let's see. TechRaptor has a review of Superliminal. I heard somebody say they didn't really like it, but it was Giant Bomb, and I don't know if I should be listening to Giant Bomb anymore at all. I kind of think this would be an interesting game, the way you change perspective and things get bigger and smaller. But here we have TechRaptor kind of backing up Giant Bomb with a 5.5. Superliminal fails to justify itself or its themes and ends up as a rote puzzle experience that you'll be fine to forget. The pros are an intriguing premise that fails to deliver, smart quirks for the curious, but repetitive pace puzzles and wasted potentials. So, apparently there's an Indivisible TV show in development. It may not be new news. Well, that sucks. Maybe they could do something to make Superliminal, like, rewrite it, polish it, but they probably wouldn't. It's probably just going to be a disappointment forever. Somebody will steal their idea and do it better. Next we have a game called Edge of Dawn, which looks like it is a survival game in a post-apocalyptic zombie world. And it doesn't look that bad. $11.99, English only, single player only. Yep, that goes on the follow list. It would be hard to justify playing a game like this, but if I was going to play a survival game, this probably would be up my alley a lot more than a lot of the other games, because it actually has kind of a horror element to it, and because it is just kind of a standard, well, I'm seeing dragons and monsters now, so it doesn't seem like it's zombies, but dragons and monsters work just as well as zombies. Although this trailer does seem to kind of highlight the idea that you're mostly running around fighting these monsters. But that might work too. Like a survival game that's half an action game. Yeah. So I may not really understand what Edge of Dawn is, but I still think I might be interested in it. We'll see what the reviews say, of course. TechRaptor has an article. Ubisoft reveals the first Prince of Persia, the Dagger of Time screenshots, which I assume this is the movie, but I guess I'm wrong about that. No, there wouldn't be another movie in development, would there? It's an upcoming arcade VR escape room, is what it is. Okay. I feel like they probably rushed out the screenshots just to change the news cycle about all of the #MeToo stuff that happened on Ubisoft, which I guess I can happily say there has been no new news with any of that. They've kind of fallen quiet there. So either internal investigations are going to go one way or the other, or nobody has any new accusations to make, because it feels like since there has been basically no other things to talk about, it feels like the mainstream video game journalism would be banging on about Ubisoft still, regardless of whether any new news was to be reported otherwise. So they've kind of killed the story, which might, if you were going to put on a tinfoil hat, might be an indicator that the stories didn't pan out quite as accurate as they first seemed. But that would really be a stretch to believe that, or even suspect that at this point. Next we have a game on Steam here called Chaos Battle Chess, which seems to me to look like you're playing on a chessboard, but then the characters don't actually play chess. It's probably just auto chess, or a new twist on something like auto chess. So this is early access, free to play, but then it's going to have in-app purchases, and it's single player and online PvP, and I imagine it's going to have a heavy focus on online PvP. And I don't really see anything here that would interest me. This isn't the kind of game I'd want to play, and if it was the kind of game I would want to play, I'd want to play it on a cell phone as a free-to-play game, not on a PC. Let's see, that brings me to the Humble Bundle store, which almost certainly there are no new bundles. There's a Pathfinder Books bundle. That's, I think, not even new. And so let's see what my new tweets are and see what new games or new bits of news have happened. see, Destiny 2 Beyond Light release date delayed to later in 2020. We'll just mention that. Here we have a game called Call of Anime Vietnam War, which is a low effort asset flip. Here we'll just show the screenshots here. Anime girls in the Vietnam War, which, like, referencing the Vietnam War is never the right thing to do in almost any scenario. It's not going to make people happy. I'm going to try and curate things. Gamasutra has an article here that says, as the PS5 draws near, PlayStation promises that there's still a ton of life in the PlayStation 4. Hard to believe. Let's see. I suspect we really won't have any new bits of news. Indivisible TV show is in production. That is a new announcement. Which, in all fairness, Indivisible looked always more like a cartoon than it did an actual game. And I don't know if the game is ever actually finished. But yeah, I would like to play the game. But I almost certainly don't think I would be interested enough at the start to bother to play to watch the show, not knowing what the events of the game are or the characters. Here we have Worlds Align Deadly Dream Collector's Edition. This is almost certainly a hidden object game from Big Fish Games, which we haven't seen Big Fish Games list any hidden object games in, I'd say, a month or two. So they've kind of been slow. Gamasutra has a quote here: "We believe in generations. PlayStation argues cross-gen games risk stifling innovation." Not really. I couldn't agree with that at all. Because if somebody wants to innovate, then that game developer will innovate, and then they will not have a cross-generation version of the game. They'll only have the PlayStation 5 game, not a PlayStation 4 game. If somebody doesn't want to innovate and they're just making a standard first-person shooter that will just run slightly better on the PlayStation 5 compared to the PlayStation 4, then people will do that. So the idea of not giving them the option is ridiculous, and there's, as far as we know, it's only been heavily suggested or recommended that games be cross-compatible with the Xbox Series X and the Xbox One. I don't recall it ever saying that it absolutely had to be cross-compatible, because you know that's not gonna happen. You just absolutely know that eventually there will be Xbox Series X exclusives. There was a presentation that I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, and apparently all they really showed was this new controller and didn't reveal any new information at all. At least that's what this reporter I follow says. Which, okay. That seems like that was kind of a waste of a reason to have a presentation. Apparently, TechRaptor has an article here that says Ghost of Tsushima's load times were so fast, devs slowed them down. I have heard that Ghost of Tsushima is very good about checkpointing you and reloading you when you die. Which I imagine is a game that really probably is built around the idea that you would die quite a lot. So here's a comparison, I guess, to what is the DualShock 2 controller or the PlayStation 4 controller compared to the PlayStation 5. So even at that, you can see it is longer and wider. Just in comparison to his hands, it is fairly big. Although I've always heard that the PlayStation controller was a little small anyways, so if there was kind of like a happy medium between these two, it probably would be great. That being said, the happy medium between those two is almost certainly an Xbox One controller, which that would be really crazy, is if the PlayStation 5 came out and it just had support for the Xbox One controller, and vice versa. That would be really cool. That would probably be something more that Microsoft would do, though. If anybody was going to do that, is Microsoft would just have support for the PlayStation controllers and any Bluetooth controller in general. Alright, well, that's going to be it for this stream. Pretty much, we've gone 3 hours. I'll have to play off screen to get at least 3 more victories. We need to play a draft on Monday and hope we can get 200 more gems, and then we'll open up this mastery set. I don't think ends anytime soon, so yeah, we're still working on that. Yeah, it doesn't really feel like, though, spending the 3,400 gems, even if you had all the cards and you opened all those extra packs that you'll get, like, it still doesn't feel like that would actually give you back 3,400 gems. So yeah, it mostly is for cosmetics that you go with the mastery set, or for card packs that probably you don't even need. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching.